Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Well, it is December 17th, and I have been sober for 27 years today, and it feels surreal, and I am just filled with gratitude today. I woke up, and I just was like, wow, this is crazy, you know, like, what a life. And I just feel so absolutely blessed for everything that I have in my life. And everything I have in my life is literally a direct result of my sobriety. I was taught very early on that I needed to make my sobriety a priority in my life. And I've always done that, with the exception of a few years where I got off track, and then I came back into the rooms of recovery and put myself in the center, and it was life-saving for me. And I love talking about sobriety, and I love talking about recovery, and I love getting all of the messages from people that say, you know, like, I'm sober too, and this is how long I've been sober. And I just think, you know, there's such a family of all of us out there. You know, there's millions and millions of people that are sober, and there's more people that are getting sober every day. And I think that one of the things is that I talk a lot about, you know, people that pass from the disease of addiction, and that, you know, all the people that are never introduced to the gift of recovery. But I think it's also probably even more important to talk about all the people out there that are living amazing lives as a result of sobriety, so that we can all be lessons to other people out there that they can get sober too. Because, you know, I was thinking about this yesterday as I was doing my Peterisms video, that this thing that has so profoundly changed my life, I mean, the one thing in my life that has just changed the direction forever of how I have lived, is the one thing that I have been and was the most resistant to in my life. You know, for years I tried to get sober, and for years people told me that I needed to get sober, and for years people told me that I had a problem with drugs and alcohol, and I would say, no, you have a problem. They would say, you have a problem drinking. I'd say, no, you have a problem with my drinking, you know? And I was so resistant to getting help. And I look back at, you know, I told a story yesterday of how I got sober, the last night before I got sober, and I think about this crazy course of events that led me to walking through the doors of treatment and taking it seriously. And honestly, people ask me all the time, you know, what was your bottom? And I do not believe that I hit my bottom. I'm not a believer that you have to. I truly believe that my bottom is death, and that if I go out there and I continue to use, that I will die from the disease of addiction. But at that time, my fear was homelessness and having no one around me. My friends were all kind of done with me at that point. My family was definitely done with me. They were angry, but more importantly, I think they were extremely afraid for my life and what was going to continue to happen if I continued to use. And I knew I had nowhere to live. I had nowhere to go. I had no idea how to take care of myself. And I knew that the people around me, like, most importantly my father, who said, if you continue to use, I'm done, I just knew they were going to be out of my life. And I was terrified of what that would look like, to have absolutely nobody in my life, and to have nowhere to live and nowhere to go. And I had no skills, you know, so I think all of that together, I think fear, which ultimately, you know, was a huge part of why I used, I think fear also was a huge part of getting me sober. And it's been a wild ride. It's been an absolutely wild ride, and there's been good and there's been bad, you know, but you know, I think about the things in my life that have been really sad and really tragic, like losing my mom, or going through breakups, or losing my aunt and uncle, and, you know, just recently losing our dog Pee-Pee. And being sober hasn't taken away the pain. Not at all. But it's allowed me to show up and be present. You know, being by my mom's side when she passed away was such a privilege and such an honor. And if I had been out there using and drinking, I don't even know that I would be alive, let alone the fact that I would have, I was able to be by her side. And for those that you don't know, my mom got sober 6 months after I did. And we had almost 13 years. She died a month short of 13 years sober. And we were able to have 13 amazing years together, you know, where we shared the language of recovery. And I'm so grateful for that. You know, it's like, not a lot of families get to do that, you know, but there are a lot of families that do too. You know, there are a lot of families that are sober together. There are a lot of families that are in Al-Anon and Alateen and Nar-Anon and family counseling. And there are families out there in recovery that are successful and happy together as well. And I think that that's really important to note today. You know, addiction is a family disease. It affects everybody in the family. And recovery can be family recovery as well. I wanted to get on here today, and I wanted to do a video about the most important lessons that I've learned in the last year. And I want to do this video for a couple reasons. Number one, because I was having a conversation with my sponsor about it yesterday, and I was thanking her because the majority of these lessons come directly from her and things that I've learned in the last year. But I also, you know, I want to be able to look back and remember these things that I learned in the last year. I chose to sit out in this field in Ritchie Woods. It's like right behind the parking lot, because I just think it's such a beautiful landscape here behind me. And of course this car is parking right in front of me as I'm doing my video. But I wanted to do it out here because I wanted to just kind of be, you know, for me, much of my life, God has been nature. God has been the wind, or driving down the road and with the windows down in the hot August nights with music blasting. God is in that for me. And so I want to pick a place that has become very spiritual to me. And Ritchie Woods has become very spiritual to me. I've really enjoyed coming here and doing videos here and just walking around and thinking to myself. So I wanted to do the video here, but I want to do this video about 5 life-changing lessons that I've learned in the last year. And the first one I want to say, I want to read a comment that I got on a video because it's interesting. I got this comment, I think it was on my vlog here last night, yeah, and it said, "I've been watching your old vlogs. You swore in the one I was watching and it caught me off guard. You never swear anymore." And, you know, I thought it was such an interesting comment, because I really did, about a year and a half ago, start making a concerted effort to not swear in videos on YouTube anymore. And it really started with 2 different things. It started, number one, YouTube does not like curse words. And number 2, my mom had said to me for years and years and years, and I know that a lot of people disagree with this statement, but she had said to me, when you swear a lot, and I am somebody that swore a lot. I used a lot of cuss words, you know, I don't need to list them, but I used, you know, the F word, and you know, not the derogatory word, but the F word, and you know, I cussed like a sailor. And my mom would say to me, when you cuss a lot, people stop listening to what you're saying and they hear how you're saying it. And she would say to me, like, you're hanging out with all these old guys at meetings and they all cuss a lot, which there's a little bit of truth to that, but maybe that's a stereotype. And so I started being around, like, noticing when I was around friends of mine that cuss a lot. And I don't have a lot of friends of mine that cuss a lot, but I have a few. And I would notice that, like, you know, when they were like, GD, JC, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I was kind of like, after a while, it's like you do kind of listen to the tone and the aggressiveness of how they speak instead of really what they're saying. And what I really learned was that I really want people to hear what I'm saying, you know, what words I'm using. And I don't want people to just hear filth come out of my mouth. I think the other thing is this, and I actually learned this from my mom too. I mean, she wasn't a Puritan. She did swear at times, you know. She'd, oh, F, you know, or whatever. And what I realized was that those words have a little bit more delivery or a little bit more power when you use them in limited circumstances. And so for the last year and a half, I've really made a concerted effort to swear less, you know? And I kind of believe that, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I kind of believe that the things I'm saying are heard in a different, maybe not more, but they're heard in a different way. I hope so, you know? And the other thing that I realized was, I'm not a person that's a prude. I don't care about cuss words. It doesn't bother me at all, you know, and like my dad swears a lot. My dad is somebody that swears a lot, you know. But what I've learned is that I don't have to. And if I don't have to, why do I need to? And that's kind of been really the lesson for the last year for me. And that's kind of probably the least of the profound lessons I've learned, because that's not really that big of a lesson. But what I really did learn, I mean, this is 3 or 4 years ago, you know, is I really started taking a look at the words that I was using and the tone of the words that I was using, and just how you speak to somebody changes how you affect them. And I am a believer today that words and tone have, you know, a heavy effect on people. And I really learned that how I speak to people, you know, is a choice, number one. But I've also learned that I want my words to carry love or understanding, or I want them to be part of a discussion. I want them to be heard, you know, not resisted. And so I've thought a lot about that in the last year. So that's been like one of the least profound lessons. The other ones are more meaningful, and I just kind of put them in a list. But the next one, because I was talking to these about my sponsor, and the next 4 are directly things that I learned from my sponsor in the last year as a direct result of doing inventory, calling her on the phone and saying, hey, listen, I need help with this or whatever. And the first one is the idea of being presented with opportunities for growth. And I've talked a lot about this in, you know, many of my channels, but what it is that, you know, I'll call my sponsor up the phone and I'll say, like, I'm going through this, or I'm going through that, or this happened, or what happened. And she'll say to me, this is an opportunity for growth, you know, are you willing to take it? And many times I'm kind of like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm mad right now, or I'm angry, or I'm hurt, you know. But I would say almost 100% of the time now, I come around and I'm, you know, a day or two later, if not immediately, and I say, okay, I'm ready, you know, what do I need to do? And she'll say, well, we need to look at what your part is in this, because you do have a part in all things, right? Even if your part is in that you're holding on to that, or you're not like going to counseling or processing through this issue or whatever, like, you know, like, what is your part in that? What can you change about that? You know, what can you learn from this situation? Instead of just letting things happen to us in our lives and just having them be these things that are painful or hurtful, or that, you know, we're mad about or we're angry, like, what's the lesson that I can learn from that? How can I apply that to my life and grow and change as a result of that? And it has been life-changing for me in the last year, you guys. Like, I mean, in almost every situation now that I go through, I look at it and I'm like, okay, is this an opportunity for growth? And she'll say, like, are you going to take it? You know, and I'm like, God, sometimes I don't want to, you know, sometimes I don't want to grow. Sometimes I want to stay where I'm at. But it has been life-changing, you know, and I look at the small lessons that I've learned in the last year, and the small ways that I've grown, you know, and I'm a believer that we never graduate from this school of life, right? Like, when you learn a lesson, there are more lessons to be learned after that, you know? It's like from the book by Dr. Cherie Scott, you know, if life were a game, these are the rules. And she says in there that in life you are presented with lessons, and lessons are repeated until they are learned. Once you learn a lesson, there will be more lessons. And, you know, that has been my life in the last year. And I have to say this, and this is the crazy part about it, the more open I have been to having these opportunities for growth, the richer my life has gotten, because I just see things through a different point of view, a different way, right? Like, the more open I am to listening to people's, you know, suggestions and feedback, and I'm like, oh, wow, like, you think this and whatever, you know, and like, my life has become fuller. My life has opened up as I have been willing to not see it in such a narrow way, but that I have been willing to grow as a result of the experiences of my life, you know? It's been amazing. The next one is let them twirl. And this was such a hard one for me. And I said this in a video and somebody said, you mean let them spin? And no, my sponsor says let them twirl. And what it means is that when people are, you know, years ago I heard this thing from Oprah Winfrey, and she was talking to Maya Angelou, and she said, you know, all these people are talking about me and Stedman and gossiping, and there's all these, like, you know, ETV and all these people, and she's like, I don't know what to do with that. And Maya Angelou said, but you're not in that. And she goes, but it's about me. I don't understand what you're saying. She goes, but you're not in that. It's not about you. It's about them. It's what they're saying. You're not in that, right? And, like, it was such a profound lesson for me at the time. And so, like, in the last couple years, you know, my sponsor, I'll take things to her and I'll say, well, this is going on or whatever. And she'll say, let them twirl. You're not, that's not about you. Let them twirl, you know, like whatever it is, you know, whether it's family stuff or stuff with friends or whatever, you know, if you're not part of it, let them twirl. Let them just spin, spin, spin. If they're talking about you, okay, let them talk about you. Let them twirl. It's not about you unless you put yourself in it. And that's the next lesson. And the next lesson is you don't have to engage or participate. Oh my God. This has probably been the most powerful lesson that I have learned in the last year, is that I do not have to participate. I don't have to engage, okay? If people are arguing, if people are fighting, I don't have to be part of that. I can just sit back, you know, and I can be like, hey, I'm really sorry that you guys are fighting. Like, if you need to talk, I'm here, right? But I don't have to participate, and I don't have to put myself in the middle of that. And, you know, when that comes to friends and family, that is super, super powerful, right? Like, if you've ever had, like, family arguments or friends that are arguing, or there's, you know, whatever's going on with your, you know, groups of people that you have, work even, things like that, you don't have to participate in that. You don't have to be part of it. Often we think that we do, and I have to tell you that for years and years and years, I inserted myself in the middle of situations that I had no business inserting myself in, number one. Number two, I wasn't benefiting from inserting myself in it, right? Like, I wasn't gaining anything by inserting myself in the middle of it. And I just think, maybe looking back, my life was boring and I wanted the drama and I wanted the chaos, because I grew up in such drama and chaos, having an alcoholic mother, that I think that I was attracted to that. And so what happened was, I would insert myself into the middle of these situations that I didn't need to be inserting myself into, and then I was stressed out as a result of it. Why? I don't know. And I've really learned in the last year, you know, if it ain't about me, stay out of it. You know what I'm saying? I know people will be like, well, you have a drama channel. I have a commentary channel. That's what I do on that channel. I'm talking about in my personal life, okay? Like, if it ain't about me, don't insert myself in the middle of it. And when friends ask me today, like, what do you think about this situation? I'll say, are you asking my opinion? I always say that first now, because if I'm going to insert myself into it, I'm going to make it very clear, this is just my opinion. Sure, I messed up a couple times in the last year, and I kicked myself in the butt, because I'm like, oh my God, why did I put myself in the middle of this situation that I didn't have to, you know? But it has been so freeing, you guys. It has been absolutely so freeing in the last year to be able to just realize that, like, I don't have to be in every situation. Not every situation's about me, you know? And I don't, life is just a lot more simple. And, you know, my sponsor and I were talking about the gift of peace and serenity in our lives today. And if my goal is peace and serenity and happiness, you know, like, for years, my different sponsors would say to me, do you want to be happy, or, you know, do you want to be right? Have you ever, like, fought constantly? I mean, I'm talking about everything from, there's a Burger King or a McDonald's down the street. No, there's not. Yes, there is. No, there not. Would you rather be happy, or would you rather be right? Is it that important for you? And I'm not talking about deep issues, okay? I'm talking about that kind of crap that we argue about on a regular basis, and then you're Googling stuff. Yes, there is this, and then you Google it. Okay, okay, you're right? It's like, would you rather be happy, or would you rather be right? Do you need to be so right about the fact that there's a McDonald's up the street and prove it to somebody over your happiness? Or is it just easier to go, you know what, you're probably right, I don't, and maybe and you know in your heart of hearts you're right. It's just not that important. So my sponsor and I were talking about the idea of serenity and peace and happiness. Well, if my goal is serenity, peace, and happiness, right, I have to remove all of the clutter. I have to remove the clutter, the toxicity, the negativity, all of that kind of stuff. I can't have it. I have to remove it from my life, right? There's a plane up there somewhere. I don't see it. But anyway, I have to remove that from my life. Well, one of the ways to remove all that is to not engage in it, to not participate in it. And I can tell you that is not easy. Like when I started it, I was like, okay, this is not easy. And it's become easier, you know? Like I'll sometimes sit there and be like, oh, I got things to say about this. I want to say something. But you know what? I've learned it's just so much easier not to. And my friend Tanya is such a good example of this. She is somebody that like for many, many years just does not participate, you know? And she's just been such a good role model for me in that, you know. The last thing I want to talk about is, because this video is getting kind of long, the last thing I want to talk about is this idea of not living in the lie. And this was actually something that I had heard kind of like thrown around for years and years and years. And you know, when I got sober, they would say don't drink on the lie. And what that means is that you have this idea that, or don't drink or drug on the lie, that you have this idea that life is going to be better. Like you're going through a really hard time and you think, well, if I could just get drunk, or if I could just get high, or if I could just do this, then I would feel better or whatever, right? And that's okay, but you get drunk and then the next day the problems still exist, right? You know? And then it's like you get up and the problems still exist and you got drunk. So that's like drinking on the lie, telling yourself that it's going to be better or that it's going to be different. You know, for years I told myself I can handle it. It's going to be different. I can do this, you know, I can, all this kind of stuff. And that's drinking on the lie. But like, you know, like living on the lie, and I want to make sure, but like living in the lie is believing something to be true that isn't, right? And, you know, it's like, I used this example in my vlog last night. I'm going to use it on here. You know, for the year leading up to my husband and I going to marriage counseling, I lived in the lie. And the lie was that I was miserable and I was unhappy and our marriage was falling apart and we were headed for divorce. And he felt the exact same way. That was the truth. The lie was everything's going to be okay. We're going to work through this. This is just a phase and things are going to get better. Well, you know, you can put wood and nails and tools out there, but that doesn't make a house, okay? You have to build the house. You have to do the work. And a marriage is the same way, you know? Just because you have two people sitting in a room does not make a marriage. You have to do the work. And I was living in this lie that this was just going to pass, or that this was going to get better, and that just one day it was magically we were going to look at each other and it was going to be over. And that's just not the case, you know? And I was living in the lie. And I've done that a lot in my life, where I've lived in the lie of believing something is not true because it's the easier thing to believe than living in the truth, you know? And that's one of the things that my sponsor has really, really helped me on in the last year, is to not live in the lie. And living in the lie goes way, like, that's just one example. It can be like looking at a relationship and, you know, like part of the lie is, well, this person mistreated me, this person did this person did that. And my sponsor will say, let's get out of the lie. Like, what's your part in that? Do you have a part in that? And I'm like, well, you know, yeah, like, I mean, like I haven't let this go for 5 years. I'm continuing to like look at their social media and whatever, and she'll be like, okay, well, let's not live in the lie. Like, let's live in the truth. Like, you know, you're not letting go of this situation, right? Or, you know, or she'll say to me like, you know, I'll say, well, this happened, will this happen, will this happen, and I deserved it. Because she'll say, oh, no, we're not going to live, that's the lie. We're not going to live in the lie that you deserve something like that. You don't no human being deserves things, you know, like that. Like, you know, that we're not going to live in that lie. And so it's really helped me get out of this idea that I spin in my head of things that I deserve or how things should be, or on and on and on, when there's no truth to that whatsoever, you know. And it's been life-changing to me, and I've gotten out of the lie in most situations, and I've gotten into the truth of really being willing to look at the world, you know, and say, I mean, like one of the truths that I live in now is where I used to always feel like life was a lot of what happened to me, which I still believe, okay? I still believe that life is what happens to us, and our attitude and how we, you know, change that. But I also today believe that I have a lot of control over my own life, you know, and the choices that I make, and how I choose to live my life, and what I choose to do with my life, you know? And every day that I get up is an opportunity for that. And as I close this out, I do want to share one thing. I love this, hold on a second. I love this meditation. Some call it a prayer. I'm going to call it a meditation. Quote, and I want to read it to you guys really quick. Hold on a second. And when I worked in treatment back in the day, and when I was in treatment back in the day, this was how every day was started in these community groups that we would have, and it was with this statement, and I love this to this day. And it goes like this. This is the beginning of a new day. God has given me this day to use as I will. I can waste it or I can use it for good. What I do today is very important because I am exchanging a day of my life for it. When tomorrow comes, this day will be gone forever, leaving something in its place I have traded for it. I want it to be a gain, not a loss. Good, not evil. Success, not failure. In order that I shall not regret the price I paid for it. I am so thankful for the life that I have today. And I'm so thankful for each and every one of you out there for watching my videos. You guys have no idea. You give me a life beyond my wildest dreams. That I get to get up every single day and make videos and do something that I love. And I'm just like feeling overwhelmed by emotion and happiness and joy and gratitude today. And so I just want to say thank you so much. And I love you guys. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.